This is a video showing how to use the ZBox X for iOS 7 switch control. Switch adapter to access an iPad using switch control capabilities of iOS 7. To start, we have an iPad, a ZBox X for iOS 7, switch adapter, and a control switch with 3.5mm plug. You can use any number of switches from 1 to 6 to control an iOS device through the ZBox interface. The first thing I am going to do is connect the ZBox X for iOS 7 to the iPad. The ZBox switch adapter comes with a 30-pin connector. A Lightning to 30-pin connector is available, so you can connect to newer iOS devices that use the smaller Lightning dock connector. Simply connect the plug from the ZBox into the dock connector of an iPad and wait 3 seconds. If your volume is turned up, you will hear the iPad speak telling you that the ZBox is connected.
No switch detected. Voiceover off.
The ZBox is connected. Plug in as many control switches you would like to use. You can use a single switch with 3.5mm plug, or you can use as many as 6 switches to operate the iPad. At this point, there is one step that needs to be done. Since it is the very first time I am using a switch adapter with this iPad, we need to set up an accessibility shortcut on the iPad so the iPad knows what to do when I connect a ZBox and a switch. Go into Settings, select the General tab, choose Accessibility, scroll down the right side and press Accessibility Shortcut, and press Switch Control to turn it on. You will see a check mark next to Switch Control. Press Accessibility at the top of the page to go back to the Accessibility page. I have already plugged in one control switch to the S1 switch jack. Now we need to set up what action the switch will perform when pressed. From the Accessibility page, I scroll down to Physical and Motor, then press Switch Control. I am going to click on Switches, then press Add New Switch. We are going to set up an external switch, so I'm going to press where it says External. Now it is looking for a switch, so I press the switch control and release. Since it recognized the switch press, it pops up asking me to name the switch. I'm going to name it Switch 1 and press Save. This is where I tell the iPad what I want the switch to do when pressed from the list of available actions. This could be tap, increase volume, or move to next item, but I'll set it to select item when the switch is pressed. You can repeat these steps for the other switches you plan to use, up to a total of 6 switches. Once we have set up the primary action of each switch, we need to go back to the switch control menu and turn on switch control. Since we are only using one switch at this time, we are also going to turn on auto scanning. Now that switch control is active, I'm going to use the switch to launch an app and show you how switch scanning works. I want to go to my home screen to launch an app, so I start the scan by pressing the switch briefly and releasing it. You can see the cursor moving around this settings page automatically. I click the switch again and it brings up the main sub menu and begins to scan through it. I want to go home, so I wait until the cursor is over the home button. Then I briefly press and release the switch. I want to use one switch to write an email, so once I am on the home screen, I start the scan with the switch. When the cursor is over the email icon, I briefly press and release the switch. Since my email icon is in the top row or the first scan group, I may have to wait until the scan goes around the second time to press correctly. But once I have selected the top row, the cursor automatically begins to scan the items in that first row. When the cursor is over the email icon again, I briefly press and release the switch. This brings up the sub-menu again. This time I will use the switch to press tap to select the app. This launches the email app. Now that I am in my email application, I want to start a new email. If the scan isn't already moving, I will press and release my switch to start the scan. The Compose New Email icon is in the top right corner of the screen. Remember, when you are using scanning, it is a good idea to look at the target and not focus on the movement of the cursor. You will be able to see the movement of the cursor towards your target out the corner of your eye. So I will look at the new message icon while the cursor automatically scans the page. I will select the scan group, then select New Message and choose Tap to start my new message. I will start by typing who I want to send the message to. At the end of the keyboard scan, it will put a dashed line around the entire keyboard. Press the switch when you see this dashed line. Then I can scan to the CC, BCC, subject, and ultimately the message box and enter text in those spaces too. Once I have my message written, I can scan to the send and send the message off. By now, you have noticed this sub-menu that appears when I make a selection. These sub-menus are an important feature of iOS 7 that provides you with complete access to the iOS device through the ZBox X switch interface. The top level is the main scanning menu. This gives you top-level commands like tap or select, scroll, home, gestures, device, and settings. This is where I can tap the screen, select a letter from the keyboard, and press the home key. But there are even more things that I can do with the switch, like scroll up and down and perform gestures just by selecting the feature in one of the menus. Once you have selected one of these items, you will be directed to a sub-menu, like the scroll menu or gestures menu and device menu. These provide you with more commands that you can perform with your switch. The ZBox X for iOS 7 is really quite easy to use once you have set up the iPad accessibility shortcut. I simply triple click the home button to turn off the switch control or triple click to turn it back on. And when I no longer need the ZBox X for iOS, I can easily just pull it out from the iPad's docking station. Thank you for watching this video. For more information, go to our website www.zygo-usa.com or call us on 1-800-234-6006.